Good morning, LVE. To those of you who will be watching at home and to those of you in the room, our dear Mary Bob is feeling under the weather this morning, so send her your love and prayers, and hopefully she'll be back to intro next week. In the interim, I am standing in. We are very excited to have Mary Hemmer here today. She is the Executive Director of the Northeast Georgia History Center. I know many of us are members and go to the forum and special events at their facility. And I have loved watching the relationship we have built with the History Center over the years. Mary shares in the center's mission to preserve and share the region's history, drawing inspiration as a member of a family whose presence in Hall County dates back over 200 years. She graduated high school from Lakeview Academy in 1995 and received her bachelor's degree from Washington and Lee University and her master's from Duke. She's written 2 books, Faye and the Work of Death and Dragonflies and Buttermilk, and has contributed to a third, In the Beginning Was the Word, an anthology, compiled by Katerina Katsarka Whitley. What a name. Okay. In 2004, Mary was ordained into the priesthood of the Episcopal Church and currently serves on the staff at St. Mary's and St. Martha's of Bethany. She also helps to run the family store, Butch's, located in East Hall. She lives here in Hall County with her family, and we are truly happy to have you here with us today. I won't take up any more airtime. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Vicki. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. This is not the first time I have been to LVE, not by a long shot, and it's always wonderful to get to come and see all my friends. And so I'm no longer working with the store. It is closed temporarily because of all the construction, and I got a full-time job at the History Center. Yay! And I am so enjoying it and loving being there. As she said, what I joke with people is I'm not a historian, but the history of this region is in my blood. It's in my DNA. And in fact, it was a joke to my children when I got the job as the executive director of the Northeast Georgia History Center, because they all looked at me and said, "Mom, history, really? They're all historians and I'm not." My wonderful oldest got in an argument with her 3rd grade teacher about how many presidents had been impeached, and my daughter was right. And so they allowed, they're like, "Mom, that's not your subject." I said, "I know, but it is, regionally it is. I love the Northeast Georgia region. And like I said, the history of this place is in my DNA, so you'll forgive my indulgence if I share a little anecdote here and there as I'm talking today. So what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd share with you a little bit of the history of Gainesville and Hall County. How many people are from this region? One. Right? Oh, yeah, we'll count ancestors, Wilson. Wow, so 1, 2, who else is from here? I saw a hand over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. Hey, Martha, good to see you. So most of you are from, who else from Georgia? All right, so about half from Georgia. South Georgia, Atlanta, where are we from? Yeah, Atlanta region? Yeah. Tennessee, what part of Tennessee? Knoxville. Oh, nice. My daddy was born in Oak Ridge. We went and toured. If y'all have never been to Oak Ridge, Tennessee to tour, it's Atomic City. You know, that city was built up really and truly overnight during the Manhattan Project, and it is fascinating. It is well worth going up and doing a day tour or spending the night in Knoxville and going over and touring. It is absolutely fascinating to see and learn about that. So I encourage that as a wonderful trip to go over. Well, so a lot of times people move to this region and one, they haven't been to see us yet. And that's because we're very well hidden in the middle of Gainesville. So the Northeast Georgia History Center is in downtown. We are on the Brunel campus. And when I tell people that, they say, "Really?" And I say, "Yeah, the place with the log cabin." "Oh, I was wondering what that was." We sort of have all this space around us that keeps us hidden and tucked in. So we're trying really hard to not be Gainesville's well-kept secret. And let people know to come and see us. But people move to this region because it is the best region in the world to live in. We're called the Goldilocks region because it's not too cold, it's not too hot, it's just right. And so we have a lot of people who do come and retire to our area And when they come, they don't know much about it. So I'm going to share with you a little bit, a thumbnail sketch of the history of Gainesville and Hall County, since you all live here, and would love to have input. If you have things to share along the way, either raise your hand and we'll figure out a microphone, or you can share during the questions period at the end. But I'm going to share with you a little bit about the history of this region, and then I'll talk some more about the History Center itself. If you've seen me around here before, it is because I've been here wearing other hats. So I've been here to talk about my books before. I've been here to guest preach in chapel before. I also have been on campus. I've worked on and off as a hospice chaplain throughout my career, and so for a little while I was helping Pruitt Health out with their hospice department. So I've been around this space, so if you think, I know her but not from this, that's why. So I'm delighted to be here in this capacity today. So, of course, our earliest peoples in this region are the Creek and the Muskogee, or the Cherokee and the Muskogee. The Muskogee are also known as the Creek. But that really are the main peoples from this region. And if you have a chance to go out to Cherokee Bluff, it's a wonderful newer park here in Hall County, way out Flowery Branch Way, as we say. But it's a wonderful newer park here that has some information about the Cherokee. And I'm very excited, we just had our homeschool day. We do homeschool days once a month, and our homeschool day in November was on the Creek and Cherokee of this region. And after we hosted that, we had a woman from the Qualla Indian Co-op in Cherokee reach out to us for some partnerships. So I'm really hoping we'll be able to develop that and have even more offerings about the Native American history here in our region for everyone, straight from Cherokee. So keep your eyes peeled for that, for those announcements, because I think it's going to bear some good fruit. So we do have the history of the Cherokee here. Please go up to Cherokee, North Carolina if you've never done that. If you're a gambler, you can always take advantage of the casinos, but I strongly encourage you go to the Cherokee Interpretation Center, and if you get a chance to stay and see Unto These Hills, which is the story about the Indian Removal Act and its impact on Cherokee, it's marvelous. They've been doing that for decades and decades, and it's a wonderful presentation. So those were the earliest peoples here in the region. And then, of course, the settlers started to move in, came in through Savannah and up and over, and that's why one of our older maps of Georgia looks like this. So before there was Hall, there was Jackson County. So you're actually sitting in originally what was Jackson County, and it was a massive county. I don't have a pointer, but you can see all the rivers that flew through Jackson County there. And we are where we kind of sit between the Chattahoochee River and the Oconee Rivers. Is where most of Gainesville and Hall County are between those two. And of course, the Chattahoochee is what feeds Lake Lanier. Our farm, the farm that my family settled on, around 1803, the 1810 census burned, and so our family dating is around 1803. We settled on the North Fork of the Oconee River, and so that's where we've been all along, and they're still there. But this originally was Jackson County, and then slowly as the area developed and got populated, then Hall County was established in 1818. And of course, named after Lyman Hall. This summer we're going to have our Chautauqua series that is every summer in June and July. We have one speaker. And what a Chautauqua is you have an interpreter who speaks from the perspective of a historic figure. So they talk to you from that figure's perspective. They answer questions as that historic figure, which really blows my mind. I'm like, they have to really do a lot of research. And then they answer questions as an interpreter of what that work is like. Last summer, we had John Muir was with us. He was marvelous. And we had Helen Dortch Longstreet, who also was fantastic. She was fascinating. But this summer, we're going to try and host Button Gwinnett and Lyman Hall as part of the 250th celebration. So you can see all about Lyman Hall. He had a big impact on Georgia, and we're proud to be named after him, of course. That's a map from the 1830s that shows the militia districts, which of course helped to lead into the Civil War. So Gainesville was charted in 1821. It was originally Mule Camp Springs. There is a lot of debate about where the Mule Camp Spring is. Now, if you talk to my Uncle Garland, Uncle Garland Reynolds, he passed away just over a year ago. He was an architect, worked all over Georgia, but did a lot of work here in Gainesville, of course. And he was an avid hobby historian. He helped to found the Longstreet Society, in fact. And so he got to researching the Mule Camp Springs, and he thinks it very much is where there is a statue today. There's a sculpture of children playing on a log by United Community Bank and Wild Wings Cafe across from Boot Barn in downtown Gainesville, right off of, it's still Jesse Jewell Parkway there. There in that parking lot is a sculpture of children playing on a log. He just absolutely swore up and down that that was Mule Camp Springs, which does make sense, but there are a couple other locations that it's possible were Mule Camp Springs. But it was a main thoroughfare. So you have to think about Gainesville sitting between the Chattahoochee River and the Oconee River and all of these other waterways around. It was a natural trade route. Green Street was the trade route. People traveled up and down Green Street, right? Which is why it's such an old street and well-established street today. And it's also why you can't go anywhere in Gainesville from here without going down Green Street, much to our dismay. We were talking about it the other day. They're going to have to start a widening project, I think is the plan. But it's such a beautiful boulevard. Christmas on Green is on Sunday. So if you don't know that, Christmas on Green is Sunday. So 2 to 4, all the houses are open and the displays are up, and then the parade starts at 4. And we're going to have entry in the parade. So it's a great time to see more about Green Street. So that was the thoroughfare, and people came in and out of Gainesville, and it was a regular trading post. It was named after General Edmund Gaines, who was a hero of the War of 1812. I think he has some of the most wonderful hair of any other figure. And I didn't realize how, when you're a kid, you think everything about your home and your place is entirely unique. You just think you could be the only one. And then I grew up and I had a friend from Gainesville, Texas, and I thought, there can't be another. And then my cousin moved to Gainesville, Virginia, and then lo and behold, it turns out that between Gainestown and Gainesville's, the man was quite prolific in having towns named after him. So we're not the only one by a long shot. Early on, of course, the main thing was agriculture, trade, and then gold. A lot of people don't realize that around 1828, gold was first discovered in Hall County before it was discovered up in Dahlonega, outside of Dahlonega in Lumpkin County. Another great historic site is the old courthouse right in downtown Dahlonega to go and learn about the Dahlonega Gold Rush. I highly recommend that too. And you know that the state capital of Georgia, all the gold on the dome of the state capital of Georgia is Dahlonega Gold. It's Georgia Gold. If you didn't know that, it's a good tidbit, a good fun fact, as my son would say. So since it was a trade route, all this industry started to build up. The Heelan Head Mill is out. If you go north on 985, 365, you go past White Sulphur Road. A few roads past that is off to the right is where the Heelan Head Mill property is. It was Head Mill. That was the original name of the mill and the people who operated as a mill. Heelan comes from Bernice Heelan. Her husband had a shop, I think it was, I can't remember if they worked on cars, I can't remember what it was, but behind Gainesville High School back in there, he had a shop. They bought that property, and so that's why it was Heelan Head Mill, because her family has donated it to, I think, the county, and they're working on an interpretive center long-term. Their plans to develop that as a historic site right off the highway, which will be wonderful. They've done some renovations to the mill already. It's a beautiful structure. A fun history thing about the mill, though, is Bill Miner. Did y'all know we had a train robber here in Hall County? So Bill Miner was sort of known, he was known as the gentleman train robber, you can see there. He also was sort of known as the Robin Hood of his time. And the legend goes that he robbed the train, so between White Sulphur and Lula, White Sulphur, off of what's White Sulphur Road now, it wasn't that then, there was a stop, the airline railroad stop was there. And so somewhere between airline stop and Lula, he robbed the train, got away, hid his fortune that he won from robbing the train somewhere near Heelan Head Mill. And it's never been found, right? So that's a fun fact about Heelan Head Mill. Don't go telling everybody, we don't want to be dug up, but I think it's fascinating. That was 1911. It was only a few years ago I learned that we had a train robber. I love this map in the middle. That's a map of downtown Gainesville in 1820. So that shows you how quickly Gainesville really developed as a commercial center. And in fact, this picture, we just got this photograph in. Bob Swazowski, who's a huge supporter of the History Center, he had several of these large prints of photographs that had been in the McDonald's off of Browns Bridge Road for years. And he's been closing up shop in some of his archives, so he's donated some things to us. And this was a photograph I had not seen. He brought several that I've seen of downtown Gainesville, and I have some I'll share with you. But this one I had never seen before. This is from about 1900, and these are all covered wagons. I had never seen that. This is the actual square right here. So afterwards, please come up and see. This is the actual square. These are all covered wagons. And then that is, I think that's where Dress Up is now. And this is where there's the Stag Steakhouse is here. For those of you who are from Gainesville, Saul's is on, the old Saul's was on this. So that was a picture we just got in for 1900. So it developed pretty quickly as an industrial place or a place of trade and commerce, and to come and do business and go back out. Of course, a big impact for our region and the development of our region did have to do with the Indian Removal Act. The Trail of Tears, there were Native Americans that were extracted from the land here and moved out west to Oklahoma. As we know, that's how Cherokee, we had some that hid out in the mountains, and that's why we have wonderful Cherokee, North Carolina now. But we have a direct tie to the Trail of Tears on our campus. This is the White Path Cabin. This is the thing that everybody remembers. They say, oh, I know where that is. You've got that old cabin there. That was White Path's cabin. White Path was a Cherokee chief around Ellijay. So this structure actually was originally in Ellijay. And he and his wife had just had a son when the Trail of Tears began. And when they were taken up and put on the trail, he very soon on the way encountered a Methodist preacher. And he said to the Methodist preacher, we're going to die on this track. There's no way we're going to survive it. Can you take our son? And so the Methodist preacher took the son. And that son grew up and has descendants here in Gainesville, the Cooley family, Count Cooley, who has electronic sales. That's his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. So Count's father, Don, found the cabin in Ellijay and saved it. And it had been moved. He moved it off of Dawsonville Highway for a while, but then when the History Center was built about 23 years ago, he donated it to the center, and it was moved to downtown Gainesville then. So that's not the original location, but that is our most treasured artifact, of course, is to have that cabin. And we use it. It has 2 functioning fireplaces in it now, so we are able to do some living history stuff in there. We use it for interpretations all the time. On our field trips, the kids sit on the front porch and learn how to churn butter and how to grind corn, and we hang the laundry up for them to see. So it really is our most treasured artifact at the museum. The image on the left, he did die. He was right. He and his wife did die on the trail. They didn't make it. He died in Kentucky. And there is a Trail of Tears park in the town in which he died in Kentucky, and this is a monument to him. So my hope is, probably not next summer because of all the stuff that's going on with the 250th anniversary, but the following summer, I really would like for us to organize a pilgrimage where we start at the History Center, go to Cherokee, and then end up at Kentucky, so that we're following White Path's journey and hear from some experts along the way. So keep an eye out for that. Like I said, I'd like to do it spring or summertime, so that'll be 2027. We are working on renovations to this. Count has generously agreed to help fund some of those that need to be done. We need a new roof, and there's some boards. It is a true wood structure, not cured, none of the wood has been treated, of course. And so it's time to do some updating on it. So I'm hoping by next summer we'll have a lot of that done, and I'm very excited about that. It is just a beautiful thing. It's open. If you ever come and visit the center, we have it open every day, so you can walk through it anytime. And just next to it is our blacksmith shop. Of course, people always want to know about the Civil War. We have people who come in and they say, we want to see your Civil War exhibit. We have to say, we don't really have one. But this is Georgia. This is the South. You've got to have one. Well, actually, the Northeast Georgia region was not involved in the Civil War much at all. It sent battalions, it sent companies of men to go and fight, but there weren't battles and any kind of skirmishes along the way for the most part in the Northeast Georgia region. In fact, some of the Northeast Georgia region were Union sympathizers, like Union County, which is where Blairsville is, and Hiawassee and up in there. That was a whole county that generally sided with the Union. In fact, my great-great-great-grandfather wrote letters to the newspaper in Athens arguing on the side of the Union. He was against the start of the Civil War, and we thankfully have copies of those articles in our family that we can see. Hall County did send 9 companies of men to the Confederate Army to fight. So while we didn't have direct engagement with the Civil War here in Hall County, we do have a very important piece of Civil War history, or really post-Civil War history. Are you all familiar with General James Longstreet? Have you heard of him? Yeah. So he was General Lee's sort of right-hand man, and famously disagreed with him about the Battle of Gettysburg. And if you are a big Longstreet enthusiast, then you will swear up and down that if Lee had just listened to Longstreat, it would have changed the tide of the war, and the outcome of Gettysburg would have been quite different. He was a really interesting man. He settled back here in Gainesville because his daughter had attended Brenau. Yes, his daughter attended Brenau, and in fact, that's how he met Helen. So Helen was his daughter's roommate. There's like 30 years difference between them. She just died in the 60s. So she was a lot younger than he was. His wife had died. She was his daughter's roommate. Then life happened, but when he came back to Gainesville and they kind of got to know each other again, they got married. And she was a pistol. She became the postmistress of Gainesville when there was not such a thing. You did not have a woman in that position. She argued with Teddy Roosevelt about getting money for us. She lobbied, she went all the way to the Virgin Islands to lobby on the island's behalf for better economic conditions. She fought the building of the dam at Tallulah Gorge because she had all her life gone and vacationed up there and loved the gorge and did not want to see it desecrated by a dam being built. Of course, she lost that one, but the Interpretive Center is named after her. So I don't think she would appreciate that maybe too much. That seems like a consolation prize, but at least it's a good way of honoring her. He did retire here after the war, and this is a picture of the original Piedmont Hotel. The Piedmont Hotel is over in Gainesville near Midland Park now. You know, the wonderful Midland Park Greenway that they've built near the train depot in that region. Nofo Brewery is in that area now. That's where it was, and there's still an original part of it. And the Longstreet Society has just reopened the Piedmont Hotel. Jeff Pierce, their director, did a marvelous job. He and his wife have renovated the inside to the era that Longstreet would have run it. And it's gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous inside. I highly recommend that as a little trip to go and see and walk through it and get to know the work that they're doing. It is so beautiful. I want to stay there. You know, obviously you can't, but you know, it gives you an idea of what it was like when he would have been there running it. After the war, he actually argued in favor of everyone kind of getting over it and in favor of the Union and becoming a united country again. And for that reason, he was a bit vilified in Hall County. My uncle, who was a big Longstreet fan, he said the story was that because he was really good friends with Ulysses S. Grant. He was Grant's roommate in college at West Point. And so after the war, you know, he said, we need to support reunification, and so people here would cross the road not to have to walk next to him on the road because they were so angry with him for being a traitor. So there's a lot of work being done in the Longstreet Society to try and clarify his legacy. But that's really our connection to the Civil War. In 1871, the Atlanta-Richmond Airline Railway opened. That totally changed Hall County. You know, we went from a trading post to really being an even bigger center of industry because the railroad came. That's really when Brenau was founded. So Longstreet came, retired, met Helen, his daughter's roommate. Then they had life, and then later they got married, as I said. But that brought early tourism. We think about Hall County, like what would you say are the major industries in Hall County? Poultry. We're going to talk about poultry. Got to talk about chickens. Right. What else? What are the other like major industry in Hall County? What's that? Medical. Absolutely. I'm going to talk about that. What else? The lake, tourism. Tourism is huge in Hall County. Lake Lanier is, I think, still the most visited lake in the United States because of all of the bass fishing competitions, and now the row canoe kayak venue. So tourism was an early one. Of course, textiles, it used to be. It's not anymore, but textiles is a long one. So tourism really started with the railroad. So as soon as the railroad came through, we saw the development of the White Silver Springs Hotel. That is near my family farm. In fact, my great-grandfather drove the stagecoach from the airline train stop. He loaded up all the rich people there and took them down the road to the White Silver Springs Hotel. And it was a Gilded Era hotel. You know, it was very popular in that time, late 1800s, early 1900s, to take the waters to try and have a cure for whatever ailed you. And so they would come and they would take the sulfur waters, and they smell horrible. I don't know why anybody thought that was a great idea. They smelled terrible, but it was the fashion. So there was a very nice hotel there at the White Sulphur Springs. And in fact, my grandfather remembered as a little boy and as a young man, well, not that little, he was born in 1899. We've got some generation gaps in our family. And so he remembers as a young man sitting on their front porch in the summer because the band would play outside at the hotel, and the wind would sort of help bring the sound, you know, to their front porch. So they got to enjoy the music that way. So as soon as the railroad comes, we see tourism starting to develop. Education is actually another big industry here in Hall County. Brenau was founded in 1878. I love this picture of the violin class in 1900. We have a beautiful gown from this era in the History Center that's on display, and I'm excited. I'll tell you about it in a minute, but I think we're going to have, hopefully, early spring, an exhibit opening of a princess, gowns that belong to a princess who had gone to Brenau. So we're working on partnering to have that exhibit come to us. So I'm really hoping to be able to announce a time soon for that. Yonah Hall, there's 1897. If you've ever been to Pierce Auditorium and seen a show, you went in and out of this building. And then soon thereafter, one of the presidents of Brenau helped to found Riverside Academy. So Riverside Academy was founded in 1907. So you think about as early as the turn of the century, that's how long we've had education as a big industry. People came from all over, rode the railroad down to go to Riverside and to go to Brenau. And now, of course, we've got UNG. We've got Brenau has grown so much, and as we partner with them, we're so lucky to be on their campus. And Riverside, they've got some great leadership at Riverside now. So we continue to say, and so many schools have developed in Hall County in the past 10 years even. So that's a long time one. Right on the heels of that, of course, because of the railroad, we have our textile mills. So we have Chicopee. What's one of the other big textile mills that you know of? Milliken, where Milliken is now. It originally was the New Holland Mill. That's why that's the New Holland neighborhood. Milliken owns it now. It's one of the, I think it's the last operating large mill in Hall County, but it's still operational. That's the one that if you're going out Jesse Jewell Parkway to get on at exit 24, that's the one big brick building on your right that you pass is Milliken. If you look up on the hill from there, that's the old community center. There is a physical therapy office there now, but there's also, they rent the space for events, which is wonderful. The pool is still in the basement. You can't use it, but it's still there. That was a community center that the mill company built for their workers. And Norton has been redeveloping that whole region for housing and in keeping with the style of the New Holland Mill. So that was the Pacolet Manufacturing Company built that one. This is that New Holland Mill right there. And then Chicopee, of course, was built in 1926. So Chicopee next year will celebrate 100 years. It's out in Oakwood, and it's a beautiful sprawling brick building. And during World War II, they produced a lot of the gauze that was sent overseas for the soldiers was produced. And we have one of those machines in the History Center. So please stop by and see that because it's so interesting. So the mills, of course, became a big part of it. This is sort of a busy day in Gainesville in the early 1900s with all of the wagons coming through. You can see how really it was a major center of trade. I mean, that is so many people. You said hospital, medical. Medical from a very early time was an important part of Gainesville and Hall County. People would come here to get treatment. Downey Hospital was established in 1909, named after Dr. Downey, who ran a hospital out of his home to start off with. I love this picture of the hospital, 1930 to 1945. I think it's so pretty. E.E. Butler, a lot of people drive down E.E. Butler Road and don't know who E.E. Butler is. He was a black doctor here in Gainesville who treated a lot of folks. He died young but made a big impact on the community while he was here. So that's actually who E.E. Butler is. Now, of course, we have a wonderful big complex. April 6, 1936, we celebrate the 90th anniversary, or mark the 90th anniversary of the tornado. So twin tornadoes hit downtown Gainesville in the morning of April 6, 1936, and it completely leveled Gainesville. My grandfather had a butcher shop in downtown Gainesville at the time, and he climbed underneath a butcher block and survived under the butcher block, and then climbed out to try and go and help other people. And I just met a man, this is one of the reasons I love my job. A guy came in, we started talking, he said, you know, my grandfather worked for your grandfather. And I said, what? And we got to talking. He was with him. I didn't know any of this until 2 weeks ago. His grandfather was with my grandfather during the tornado, and his grandfather had climbed into the cooler and had survived the tornado in the cooler, and then got out with Granddaddy and tried to help. A lot of the devastation was caused by the storms, but worse than that were the fires that happened afterwards. In fact, there was a mill downtown that had women who were working it, and they got trapped inside. Right, it's kind of near where Boot Barn is now. And so it totally devastated downtown Gainesville. It caused a lot of the rebuilding to happen and a sort of restructuring of downtown Gainesville. FDR famously came, Franklin Delano Roosevelt famously came to speak to Gainesville because it made national news because it was so devastating. So he rode down on the train because he came through Georgia all the time. Again, another Georgia sight to see is to go to the Little White House in Warm Springs, Georgia. That is, he used to come down and soak because of his effects of the polio he had. He would come and soak in the waters there, and it helped him a lot. In fact, that's where he died. And the train stopped here in Gainesville after he died for everybody to pay their respects. He rode the train down and spoke from the train to try and encourage Gainesville to rebuild after the tornado. The Gym of 36, which is near downtown, which now belongs, the Gainesville City Schools now has it as their Horizon Alternative High School. It's the Gym of 36 because it was built in 36 because everything else was leveled. Then, of course, after the tornado, everything's being rebuilt. We realized this is a great place for chickens. So this is where poultry comes in. We already had a good poultry industry coming in, of course, because we have great farmland. It adds to the growth of Georgia, of Hall County and Gainesville, but the thing that really revolutionizes it is Jesse Jewell. He brought in the whole idea of the broiler bird and having a processing plant and doing sort of mass processing here. And so Jesse Jewell Parkway, that's who Jesse Jewell is. He's the one who brought really the poultry industry on large scale to Hall County, so much so that we had poultry festivals. We had chicken festivals in downtown Gainesville with parades. And they were still going on. The parades weren't, but there were vestiges of it still when I was little, because one of my best friends growing up was a Little Miss Baby Chick when we were little. I was so proud. I was like, well, my friend's Little Miss Baby Chick. The beauty contest soon died after that. But it was, the pictures we have of the parades are so great of, these great chickens. That's why we like the chicken downtown. You also see we have a new Christmas chicken in downtown Gainesville. We've upgraded. That's right off of the square now. It was two weekends ago, they lit the chicken for Christmas. Only in Gainesville, Georgia, would we have a Christmas chicken. Then comes Lake Lanier, right? We realized that the growth in the area, we needed a better water resource to help feed the growth. So we see not just Lake Lanier, but the development for a hydroelectric power. We have Lake Lanier, we have Lake Rabun. A lot of the lakes that pepper the Northeast Georgia region are actually hydroelectric lakes, and were built by the power companies. I talked about the Tallulah Gorge, that dam, in fact. That then added or revived the tourism industry in Hall County. So as I said, Lake Lanier becomes one of the most visited lakes in all of Georgia. All of the United States still is. Because of the Olympics, there's the Dragon Boat Festival. There are competitions constantly going out off of Clarks Bridge Road at that facility, and they've just built a brand new boathouse that's gorgeous. To help feed that industry. So Lake Lanier was a boon for Hall County. Now, one of the biggest industries we have is the film industry. The entertainment industry is filming more and more in Hall County and in Georgia. As you know, it sort of exploded in Georgia, but they have discovered Hall County. So on the left, if you can see in the middle, is Sylvester Stallone. He has been filming a TV show called Tulsa King here, I think past 2 years or so. They set up every once in a while and film. And then on the right was a TV show called Ozarks, which is off the air now, but that is Lake Lanier behind them. It was filmed in a house on Lake Lanier, so people will go on a tour of Lake Lanier and go by that house. Those poor people who live in that house. I'm sure people come and take pictures all the time. So that's a thumbnail sketch of Hall County, the history of Hall County. Didn't realize I had taken the pictures out of the new hospital. So we still are a location for tourism. We have the film industry. Poultry is still huge in Hall County. Education is. We see continuous growth in our universities in Brenau and UNG. And how they are meeting the needs. Lanier Tech, of course, I can't leave that one out. That they have a wonderful new campus off of 365, meeting the educational needs of our region. And then, of course, the hospital system. You know, it has, because of the story of Ronnie Green, which is a whole nother story. So if y'all really want to hear it, I'll tell you later. But because of Ronnie Green, the donation from his estate is why the hospital exploded as a center for heart care. And that has led to the continued growth. And we've had wonderful leadership in our hospital system to see that continue. We can be very proud of the healthcare here in Hall County. So at the History Center, what do we have going on? All kinds of things. We are proud to be a resource for the region, and we're wanting to develop that more. So one of the things I've been doing since I came to the History Center, I started on July 9th. I've been reaching out to organizations in the region to partner to try and bring more of the whole region to us. So in the next few years, for instance, we're hoping to have an exhibit from the Pottery Museum in Saltine Cucci. They have a fantastic, it is beautiful, their facility is gorgeous. They're gonna help curate an exhibit of pottery for us soon in the next couple of years. And I'm going up to visit Foxfire soon. They've been great in communicating. I have a friend who works at the Hambidge Center who's interested in partnering on some things. And so we really want to become a hub of history for all of the region. On the lower left-hand side, one thing that we have going on people don't realize is we sponsor a one-on-one tutoring program called Gainesville Reads, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you're looking to volunteer, we would love to have you come and volunteer with our students. It is, you work one-on-one with one student to help them improve their literacy, 1st through 5th grade. And it is a fantastic program. We've seen great success with that with our students. The 2 women who run it are wonderful. In our mission to preserve and share, we have lots that feed into that. We have a digital studio, and I'm going to share with you in just a minute a video from that of some of the work that's coming out of it soon. We do have event space that we rent. We have special programs that we offer throughout the year, including community days. We just had in November, the Daughters of the American Revolution were so good to reach out to us. They had an opportunity to host a short-term exhibit from the American Battlefield Trust, and they said, is there any way we can host it in your space? I said, absolutely. So in the month of November, we had a wonderful interactive exhibit on the Revolutionary War and hosted a community day. We had over 200 people come out to that. So we're going to do another one next summer with them. So we do have specialty programs. We've, of course, got our permanent and temporary exhibits. The newest exhibit that just opened, we're very proud of. It's World War I, World War II, and the Korean War and its impact on our region. And all of the artifacts come from families here in Hall County in Northeast Georgia. It is a fantastic exhibit. We just opened it at the beginning of November, and it opened to the public on Veterans Day. So please come and see us to see it. We're going to be having some programs certainly coming up that are connected to the new exhibit. And with that, I have a request. If you have artifacts from those wars that you would like to have a safe home, I would be happy to talk to you. But we're also working now on collecting artifacts for our upcoming Vietnam War exhibit. And so if you are a veteran or you know a veteran who is looking for a place to give a good home to some of the artifacts from that experience, we very much want that. And we want to hear the stories. So part of our work in our digital studio is we do a lot of living history, not living history, we do a lot of oral history recordings. So our digital studio director sits, we interview people, and then that goes into our digital archive. And so we also are looking for interviews on those. Helen Powell is wonderful. She is a woman in the area who has been doing recordings with veterans for ages, and she allows us to keep those as well. So please come and see us on that. We have a forum. I'll tell you about the upcoming forum next week. I'm so excited about it. We have forums once a month on a Tuesday night, and thankfully there's a bus that comes from LVE to those forums. So hop on the bus, come and see us, take advantage of those. I mentioned the Chautauquas. We have homeschool days once a month, and we can have everywhere from 150 to 250 people come to those. And our Director of Education does a great job. And then I mentioned the community days with the Revolutionary War, and I'll tell you about the one coming up in just a minute. I have information on memberships and partnerships on the table back there, as well as my business card, and copies of our fall forum schedule. That gives you an idea of the sort of offerings that we have at the forums. Our spring schedule will be coming out soon. I do have information on the one coming up in January. We have, I'll come back to that, maybe I will. See, that's what happens when I'm going to come back to that if I have time. Next Tuesday's forum is Santa's Fashion Through the Ages, hosted, and we have Santa himself is coming to talk about it. So our Director of Museum Services, her father has been Santa since the 70s. And he has all this research about the costuming, and so he is going to share all about the costuming from Santa and as it has developed over the years, and he's marvelous. And then he's joining us again. That's his picture in the Community Day, December 13th, that's Saturday from 2 to 5. We're going to have a Community Day, and we'll have cookie decorating and old Appalachian Christmas crafts, storytelling. I'm going to tell some stories from Appalachia about Christmas. And then Santa will be there to get your picture with Santa. So that's coming up on December 13th. And I'm really excited about the forum. Coming up in 2026, we have lots going on. Our January forum is going to be on General James and Mrs. Helen Dortch Longstreet and their legacy in the community. Our homeschool day is going to be about surviving winter. We have a man coming from Tennessee who is an expert on winter survival, and he's going to lead these little workshops, and then we're going to have people talking about like 1800s, what was it like to survive the winter in this region in that time. We're going to have another Revolutionary War Community Day. We're working on a program for some museum after hours events for adults that we'll be sharing more about. Lots of anniversaries next year, 250th of the country in Georgia, 200th of First Baptist Church in Gainesville. I've been working with them on their celebration, 90th of the tornado, 30th of the Olympics, and then in 2027 is the 100th anniversary of Chicopee Mills. So lots coming up. Online and in the museum, we have a Guess the Artifact competition every month, and we put out an artifact and we post pictures of it on Instagram and Facebook. So if you're on Instagram and Facebook, find us, and you can guess the artifact. We have a prize every month for that. Last month we had the prize for the November was a gift basket from our organically grown. Chickens will be good. It's produce. It's a bunch of farmers that are naturally and organically grown who distribute their produce every Wednesday on our campus in the evenings, and so they're doing a gift basket for our November winner. And then, of course, we have a Christmas gift basket for December, and that one will be up soon. Watch for the Chautauquas this summer. Lots of other events coming up. And since I've got 2 minutes before questions, I'm going to show you what we're about to do. We had a fundraiser in October, and the main goal of that fundraiser was one, of course, to support the mission of our center with preserving and sharing the history of our region. But a secondary goal in that was to fund some new interactive displays for our exhibits. So we have a tornado that you can touch, that you can turn on in our tornado exhibit. It is, of course, our most popular exhibit with the kids. And my kids are always saying, "Mom, you need more of those sorts of things in the center." And I said, well, we're working on it. So we have a new program that we're going to be developing over this year and the next few years of putting in these interactive displays. And did any of you ever read like choose your own adventure books where you would get to a page and you'd have to decide what would happen next, and then that would tell you what page to go to after that? This is like that on a digital screen. So you interact with interpreters who then tell you parts of the story. So I'm going to share with you really quickly a video, and then I'll take some questions. That's what this video is about this new program that we're launching this year.
Oh, hello everyone! Have you joined the rest of the people of St. Louis to welcome us back from our long journey?
We're getting ahead of ourselves. These folks have come to meet us, so we should at least introduce ourselves and tell them a little bit about our adventures.
Good point, Clark. Well, my name is Meriwether Lewis, Captain, U.S. Army, and with Clark, I am in command of the Corps of Discovery, a group put together at the order of President Thomas Jefferson to explore the Louisiana Territory, which the United States recently bought from France for the grand sum of $15 million.
And I am William Clark, also an officer in the U.S. Army. My friend Meriwether here requested my presence on this expedition. And who am I to argue? I knew it would be the adventure of a lifetime.
But where do we even begin? Perhaps you have some questions for us. The expedition had three main goals: to make a scientific exploration of the new land, to establish relations with the Indians who live in the new land, and to find the easiest and quickest way to get to the Pacific Ocean from the Mississippi River.
The girls in the video were so cute, and it was very encouraging for us. They said, "That's it? Where's the next piece?" And we're like, "We haven't developed it yet," you know. And they're like, "Well, we want more." And so we're going to put these exhibits will be in to highlight different parts of history throughout the center. What we really love about this platform is actually we can put it online, and teachers can subscribe for $30 or whatever to access it for a semester. So they can actually put this in their classroom from the History Center. So we're very excited about this. One of the first ones we're going to do is about the Cherokee history and getting that going. I just met with our director of Digital Studio yesterday, and I'm so excited with the work he's doing. All right, any questions? What can I tell you? Oh, microphone. Yes, thank you. Raise your hand and wait for the microphone.
What are your days and hours of opening?
I love you for that question. We are open Wednesday through Saturday. The times are wrong on our doors right now. We've got to update our signage. Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 5. And then we have our special programming is throughout the week. So like, for instance, the forums are on a Tuesday night. So sometimes we have special events on a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Actually, if you're involved with Bully, they're going to be hosting one of their classes on our campus on, I think it's a Monday, starting for the next semester. So thank you. That's a great question. Yes. Hey, Pat. I don't know if that's on. He's working on it.
Okay.
Hey, there you go.
About the newest exhibit, excuse me, we have LVE representation there because Ted Johnson has loaned some things from the Korean War.
Yes, we have several. Yeah, LV is very well represented in that. And we have John Jacobs' Korean War uniform is on display. We've got from the Hush family, they're not connected with LVE, but a wonderful map from Korea. Yeah, we've got some fantastic pieces in that thanks to this community. And we're so grateful to all the support and involvement from this community in the center. Yeah. So please come and see that exhibit. It turned out wonderfully. Any other questions? Yeah. Hey, Nancy. Oh, wait for the microphone. I'm so bad about waiting. I get so impatient and excited.
This is actually kind of tooting my own horn.
Well, that's all right.
But Lyman Hall, Button Gwinnett will be they'll be the people who are going to be talking at Chautauqua.
Right, yeah.
And I just want you to know, my late husband's name was George Walton Moore.
Right.
And so he's a descendant of George Walton. So maybe the signers of the Declaration of Independence, maybe he could be added.
Oh, I love that idea.
So maybe you should talk to Jim Moore and let him be George Walton.
Do you think we could talk him into that? we maybe. We'll
I'm
see.
sure he would love to do that.
I know Jim. That'd be hilarious. That phone call would be great. I love that idea. I will. I'll make a note. That's fantastic. What other questions or anything else I can tell you? All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming out and seeing me this morning. It's great to be here. How are you? Let me take this off.
Cedar chest. I have
John.